always leaving country, but instead you're leaving the country, aren't you?
I am leaving the country at this point. I'm going to Hawaii and to Japan and to Australia and New Zealand. All places I've never been except Hawaii. I have been there before.
How are they going to take you in Japan?
I don't know. I think I should fit in. I'm about the same size of most of them. A little bitty short person, and I have all my costumes made. I had some costumes made just for the Japanese tour with all the symbols of love and peace and all this painted on my costumes. So, but you know, in all seriousness, for years they have known about me as a writer, and I've had several of the songs I've written to be real well accepted there and recorded by Japanese artists. In fact, Jolene was one of the songs of the year there a couple of years ago. Olivia Newton-John's cut of the song I wrote, Jolene. So I'll be real curious to see how they react.
They've always been a lot quicker to pick up on certain American artists than Americans have.
I think that's true. I really don't know that I know exactly why that is, except they're just more curious, I think, about American music, and they take the time to read about what musicians play on albums, all the information, you know, written on the backs of albums, and they seem to be real interested in the business end, the behind the scenes of the music, and as a writer, they seem to appreciate the artists that write their own songs. So whether they like us or not, we're real excited about the tour, and we're going thinking that they're going to enjoy it as much as we do.
They've also always loved outrageous performers, especially in Japan.
Well, I would have to say if they like outrageous performers, I would certainly say I'm outrageous, whether it's in performance or not, but we are certainly outrageous.
Has your show changed over the years? Has it gotten stranger or...
Well, of course your show changes over the years, but I'd like to think ours has changed for the better because we have more of a variety now. We try just as hard as we always did to entertain the audience, but and the costumes and things that I wear, they seem to get outrageous in some ways and to tone down a little bit in other ways. But if they like outrageous performances, I think we can give them some of everything.
Here comes a mug of coffee.
Yeah. You wanted coffee as well, didn't you? Okay.
In reading, the story of your life, or what we know of it so far, I was reminded of a fellow I respect tremendously, and that's Willie Nelson, in the sense that he's primarily a writer. He went to Nashville. He had to fight to be accepted for what he does, and he had to almost leave Nashville to do what he wanted to do. And I think there may even be a parallel.
Well, there might be a parallel in my life and Willie's life. I've always loved and respected Willie as a writer, and I love his unique way of singing. I think he's a real unusual performer. But I think Willie, like myself, just knows what he can do, what he's best at. And when you feel like in your heart you know what you got to do, you can't listen to other people, no matter what they accuse you of, no matter how you may get crucified, no matter how you might get treated. If I know in my own heart that I should do something, then I feel like I would be a fool and just be really doing myself an injustice not to try. So, like Willie, I decided that I had more to do than I was doing and that I was being allowed to do. I felt like I was capable of doing more. And I think a person knows more of what they should do than anybody else. So I ventured out. I'm glad I did. A lot of people were afraid for me. I'd like to think they were people that cared enough about me to fear for me that I might be making a mistake or that I might be drifting too far from the shore, as they say. But I am the kind of person, if I am a success at something, then I can feel good about that. If I am a failure, I only have myself to blame. But I do not let other people sway me one way or another on the decisions of my life that I feel are necessary to make. So, like Willie, I also I don't feel like I betrayed anything. I think I have added to my music. I think I have added to a lot of people's happiness through my music. That's what I'd like to think. That was always my intention, to make myself happy and at the same time make other people happy with it.
There's so many people who have started in country music and broadened their horizons a bit, or brought country forms to other types of music. And every time that happened, people say they're giving up country, but yet they've kept the country audience.
Well, I think you do keep the country audience, because I truly think that country people, country music lovers, love the person as much as they love the country music that the person comes across with. And I think if that person keeps that country base, you keep that country personality, you don't lose your accent, you don't try to get too big for your britches, which I do every now and then. I get 10, 15 pounds too big for my britches now and then. But I'm talking about actually just, if you don't try to get above your raising, if you know who you are, and if you can maintain that, then I believe that you can actually venture out and do a lot of things if you at all times remember who you are. And my music still has its country base. I do some things that some people would call rock and roll, and some of it may be, but so what? I'm a singer, I'm a writer, I'm a performer. Who's to say that I'm not allowed to do everything I want to do and everything I'm capable of doing? But when the chips are down, my first love is country music, always has been, always will be. The kind of country music I grew up with, the kind of music that I know and love and write. There's a whole lot of country music that I don't say I think is truly great music, but that's not to say I don't love country music. There's a whole lot of rock and roll records I hate, a whole lot of every kind of songs that I don't like, and a whole lot of my own stuff that I hate. But still, there's a place and a time for everything, and I just want to be there on time.
Of course, you are a musician that has no balance. In fact, I hear you're an incredible guitarist and musician.
Well, now, I wouldn't go so far as to call me an incredible guitarist, but I do play, and I do come up with some original licks and sounds on the guitar just because I don't really know the instrument that well. I just learned to play it. I learned a few chords, and then I just started making up stuff on it to play, just kind of creating things. But I play, when I write, I play piano a little bit. I write with the auto harp, with anything that I can get some sort of medley or melody out of, a dulcimer or anything. But I guess I play guitar better than anything else, and I don't play any of them just great. But if I can play enough to get across what I'm trying to get out of me as a melody and a song, well, then that's, to me, good enough.
I remember the days when, if you liked country music and you were riding in your car and with the window down, and somebody came up next to you, like in L.A. or New York, you'd roll out the window real fast. It was a secret, and now it's all over, isn't it?
Yeah, country music is a great music, and I've never been ashamed of it. If I was playing country music in my car and somebody pulled up beside me, started giving me funny looks, I just turned the radio up, because I'm real proud that I grew up with that bass, and proud that I can go back and do that simple stuff. But it has certainly been accepted in the last few years to where you don't, the people that thought at one time they would be considered rednecks or cornpawns or corny in general to like country music. I think that has all changed. It's a music with a lot of class, always was. It's just that people didn't recognize it and accept it until it got to be a going thing. Something can be around for 1,000 years, and until somebody tells you it's groovy and the thing to do, well then, people just kind of fluff it off. But it's too good of a music to be fluffed off.
The thing I've always loved about it, especially in your songs, but in most songs, but really in yours, is that each song is a story, and you could take and make a movie out of each story, each song practically.
Well, a lot of the songs I write are based on true stories, and certainly they get involved with surprise endings a lot of times. And I do make up a lot of story songs that are not true, but maybe things I've seen or things that I've thought that could have happened, or how I would possibly react in this situation or that situation. But to be honest, the songs that I'm recording now, the songs I write, are songs I enjoy writing and songs I enjoy singing. But if I had my way, if I could have been accepted and sold the kind of records that I felt I needed to, if I could have just been allowed to do what I do best, I wish that I could just record the simplest things and the countryest things and just the songs I write and all that. But there is another world out there, and you can only go so far. I had become one of the biggest country artists in the business, but every album was selling basically the same, every single selling basically the same. I was getting no more recognition on the outside, and I just thought, well, I'm going to have to really venture out. In order for people to ever accept me as being a country artist, writing these country songs, which I write better than any other song, I'm going to have to venture out, let them know me, create a personality, or to at least establish to them my own true personality, and take to them what they want to hear. Then after they come to know that music and to know me as a personality, then my own dream is to be able to go back and to write and to record the things that I think I do the very best. And then they will accept it, hopefully, as almost a new music, when all the time it was what I had always wanted to do and never wanted or meant to change. But sometimes if you've got a business mind and if you know you're going to spend your whole life doing a thing, I just feel you should make the most money for it. You should get as much recognition, because we're all here to leave something behind. And I don't want to ever get left behind. So, not without leaving something to be remembered for.
Well, when you do that simple album, we'll be the first one at Tower Records picking it up.
But I'm just saying, all the songs like I used to, the songs like Coat of Many Colors, Tennessee Mountain Home, it would thrill me to death. Of course I do now. I like singing other songs like Great Balls of Fire and stuff that I remember as a child. But I just hope that I can get to the point to where whatever I do, it can be accepted as what Dolly Parton does. You know, it's what Dolly Parton does to entertain her audience. It's her. It's me. But I want to be able to, just do the simplest things or whatever. But I'll try to make sure you get the first copy of But I can't go back just at this point. The public will not allow it. You have to. I will know that, just like I knew when I had to make a move. I will know when it's time to make another move.
I imagine it must have been a lot of fun, though, to go back and do Great Balls of Fire, or to find a whole new way of doing Help.
Yeah.
I mean, that must have been Great Balls of Fire to do.
Well, Great Balls of Fire has always been a song that I always loved. I always thought Jerry Lee Lewis was one of the great record makers, of our time. He's crazy, he's fun, and I've always, thought he was a great entertainer. And I liked that song, and I had held that song in my mind for years, and I was always going around, like in the kitchen, or just like, goodness gracious, Great Balls of Fire, just singing it like you will an old song. And so just right on the session, I said, well, let's do Great Balls of Fire. So I said, let's just do it. So everybody knew it, of course. We just started just jamming a little bit in the studio, and that is the first cut. All the musicians knew the song. They all were playing, and that was the first cut on that. I mean, we only went through it one time, and that was usually you do a song sometimes 15 or 20 times before you get the one you're going to keep for a record. But we went right straight through that. Everybody was having such fun playing it. So we kept the very first thing that we put on tape with that song. And the Help is a song that I liked. Dean Parks, who co-produced with Greg Perry the album. He's a wonderful musician, a wonderful man. He plays everything that there is to play, but he's especially a great guitar player. And he always liked the Beatles stuff, and he came up with that idea to do it bluegrass country-like. And I thought it was a very clever idea, and it turned out real nice.
Such a pleading song. It's Help.
Yeah.
It was terrific. Let's go back into your past and figure out how you got in this room.
Into my past, and to figure out how I got here today. Okay, I suppose if most of the people listening, if they have ever read or really followed my career at all, would know that I grew up in the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee as a farmer's daughter, as the old jokes go. I grew up in a family of 12 children, 6 girls and 6 boys. And we actually did make our living on a farm. My parents are still, at this point, very young, 57 and 59. My mother had her 12th child when she was 35, so you can imagine how close all of us children were. So we actually kind of grew up with our parents. My background was very simple, very humble, hard times, but yet good times because there was a lot of love and understanding. I credit my personality to the kind of parents I had and to my religious upbringing and the fact that we did respect God and respect nature. We appreciated the land. We appreciated the things we had. And we were all taught to work for what we got. And all of my mother's people were very musical, and a good many of my dad's people. They were mostly singers in the church, or just to sit out on the porch and entertain just around the house. Nobody had ever really ventured out to try to make it as a professional musician because that was a long, several light years away in that part of the country to venture out, into the world. But I had this stubborn little nature about me. I was a dreamer. I lived in a fairy tale, I guess, so to speak. The parts of the world I didn't enjoy, I created worlds of my own. And I did learn to play. It would seem natural for me to be very creative, and that religious background that I was talking about gave me a lot of faith, a lot of confidence, and I just believed that all things were possible because I'd heard that said so many times by my parents and as a scripture from the Bible that with God all things are possible. So I thought, well, God, I'm not going to stay in these mountains forever and go generation after generation just really doing the same thing, even though I had a great appreciation for the people that could do that. But me, I wanted more. I wanted to see what life was like beyond that. So I learned to play my guitar, and I started writing songs, and I had an uncle, one of my mother's younger brothers, who played guitar as well. And so he saw in me an ambition and a desire. So he started working with me, and he took me to some local radio and television shows. When I was 10 years old, I started getting paid to perform on radio and television. And then from the time I was 10 years old till I was 18 and moved to Nashville for good, during that period of time, we used to make trips back and forth to Nashville. Anytime we could get an old car that would run far enough to Nashville, which was 200 miles away from our home. And we would take songs there that I had written to try to get people to record or to try to get a record contract. I did manage to record 2 records from the time I was 10 to 18. One was when I was about 10 years old on Gold Band Records. I had an uncle stationed in the service there, and there was a little recording studio across from where he lived. They sent me the money, and my grandmother and I went to Lake Charles, Louisiana to make this big record, and we were going to become rich and famous. Well, it didn't quite turn out that way. It's a harder journey than that. But, and then again, when I was 15, I did make a connection in Nashville with a man named Buddy Killen, who is the president of Tree International, Tree Publishing Company, which is one of the greatest in the world now. He was just starting out himself then. So he recorded me on Mercury Records, one record. It didn't do anything either. So that was the end of my recording until I graduated from high school. Yes.
Wasn't there a story where you basically just walked on to the Grand Ole Opry?
Well,
about 12 or something?
There were all sorts of stories of me walking on. That was during the story you're talking about where I walked on to the Grand Ole Opry as a child. Goes back to where my uncle and I used to make all these trips back and forth to Nashville, trying to get on record, trying to get on the Grand Ole Opry. I was bound and determined to be on the Grand Ole Opry because we listened to it every Saturday night. And I was going to sing on the Grand Ole Opry because my dad, Mom, and my people were all listening, and I'd told them I was going to be on the Grand Ole Opry that Saturday night. So we went to the Grand Ole Opry, and I don't even know myself how we even managed to get backstage. It just, out of stubborn ways and just a thing that seemed like it was supposed to happen, we wound up backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, and I kept pulling on everybody's sleeve. I kept walking around everybody that I knew was going to be singing, and I told them I wanted to sing on the Grand Ole Opry. My dad was expecting me to sing. And so I asked everybody, and they kept saying, you're too young, you're not in the union, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, finally, I did walk up to this one man, which is Jimmy C. Newman, he was a Cajun guy and still on the Grand Ole Opry, and a very nice man, a man I owe a lot of thanks to. But I just went up and I said, you got to let me sing. You just got to. I just have to sing on the Grand Ole Opry tonight. And so he asked me what I wanted to sing, and I told him, and I said, my uncle can play, and it's in G, and the band can play too. So sure enough, he, instead of singing his own song that night, well, he was hosting that portion, and he did already do a song, but he called me out. Just, I wrote my name down on a piece of paper, and then he called me out, and I got encore after encore, which I thought that was the grandest thing that ever was. And it really wasn't because I was so good. It was just because I was little and all that. So that was one of the times that I was on the Grand Ole Opry.
When you were growing up, I don't know how many of the listeners may know these stories, but there used to be like a stereotype of mountain people, and there would be like a bathtub down the road and an outhouse down the road, and it would be there'd be feuds in the hills and all that stuff, and that was pretty much true in your case, wasn't
A lot of it was, but I don't remember no bathtubs. Not in our part of the country. We took a bath in the creek. In the summer, we bathed in the river, and in creeks, or we'd fill up a tub, with water and let it get warm in the sun. And at the end of the day, we'd take a bath. But we had outhouses. In fact, there was never a bathroom in our house all the years I lived. The first bathroom we ever had was when I finally saved up enough money. I wanted to do some nice things for Mom and Daddy, and I remodeled a house sort of and put the first bathroom that we ever had. But yeah, there were lots of feuds, and there was a feud in our own family once over because my dad loved his kids better than anything, like most parents do, and my mother too. But my daddy was a real hot-tempered guy, and boy, you could do a lot of things, but you didn't mess with his family, with his kids. And there was this family that lived down the road from us, and they had some older kids, and these older kids were always beating up on us because we had to walk a long way to school around this long, winding trail. And these kids, I had a boredom, I guess, in the mountains. You just do anything to break the monotony, I guess. So they broke the monotony by beating the fire out of us. So this happened over and over, and they were really hurting us, throwing rocks and really beating us up. Because you were talking about kids 4 and 5 years older than we were. Well, this happened, and Daddy was trying to ignore it because Mama kept saying, oh, Lee, the Lord's going to be, it's like Mama would always use the religion thing, you got to, if they smite you on one cheek, turn the other. Well, we turned the other as many times as my daddy thought he was going to, and then he decided he was going to start smiting some cheeks. So he did, though, first of all, make us another road. I mean, he took his bare hands and had to chop out through the woods a trail for us to go another way to miss. He did go out of his way to try to do it. Well, the kids still kept meeting us on our road, and they still kept doing it. And we fought, but we were small. We just didn't, they got the better of us. So after several of these things, Daddy just decided that was about it. So he goes down to discuss the matter with these people, and they acted real smart. Because it was just like he went to talk to the grown-ups, and I guess their children had told their own story or had denied it or whatever. But anyhow, the grown people got real smart with my dad, and that just flew all over him. And he just started fighting. My 2 older brothers was with him, even though they were young then. And he just started beating the living daylights out of these people. I mean, he broke his finger, broke this woman's nose, and broke his little finger. Only she was hitting him with a hoe, a garden hoe. But he didn't really mean to. He was just fighting for survival. But anyhow, then somebody went in the house to get a rifle. And, of course, my brothers coaxed Daddy to at least leave for then and to go get the sheriff and to try to, to weed it out. But that feud went on for a long time. We couldn't walk by their place, which was the best way out to go to the store, which we had to go out once a week or so. But it turned out funny. It took years to get over it, and they did even go to court over it. And because my dad had broke this woman's nose, but he had broke his little finger, and it's still crooked, and we always kid him about it. But she was mean enough to where it wasn't like hitting a woman. I mean, she was just, she just came after my daddy and my brothers just to hitting them with a hoe and this and that. And my daddy had a lard bucket in his hand. I think they had been to the store or something, but he was carrying this lard bucket, and when the fight started, I think he knocked this man out, hit him in the head with a lard bucket and all that. So now that it's all over, and they had took him to court because he broke her nose and had supposedly hurt this man's head real bad and caused him to have neck problems from hitting him over the head with a bucket of lard. And so anyway, that was the feud. And now it's funny. We know the people now, and there's no anger anymore. And but living in the mountains, and there's lots of stories that you don't just tell in interviews or that you don't remember to tell. But there's some funny things and some sad things and some terrible things. But it's a mixture of all those things that makes me the kind of person I am, that makes me want to write the kind of songs I do, that make me appreciate my upbringing. And I wouldn't take nothing in the world for that background.
You said earlier that guess when you were a little girl, you really wanted more out of life, and you really wanted to get whatever was out there. And I'm curious how you knew about what was out there.
Well, a lot of people have asked me, being a little child and being so in the backwoods, how did you know there was another life? See, it was not that we were heathen people. I mean, it was not like some tribe up in, in Africa that had never seen the light of day. We did have relatives that did live in other places and that would come to visit us, bring us newspapers and magazines. Most of the newspapers and things were used for toilet paper in our outhouse. But usually before they were used, they were read. And so we had these people that every now and then, we even had kinfolks, maybe, distant kin or whatever, that lived up north or that lived places. And you hear about all these things, and the Grand Ole Opry, that it's not being broadcast from the back porch. It's coming from somewhere else, and your connection with the radio and with the people. And my parents, and they had gone different places out and around to churches and things. So we were well aware that there was something else out there, and we heard about the kings and the queens and the things you read in your school books. And you know that there are places called England. There are things called kings and queens, and there are people that invented this and invented that, even though it was not things that we had necessarily seen. But I was so impressed by the things I read, because it was like a fairy tale world to me. It escaped reality. Not that reality was so bad, it was just so boring. It was like day in and day out. You work the fields, you go to school, you come home, you wash the dishes, you get ready for bed, you go to bed when it's dark, because you don't want to use up all the kerosene. You only stay up at night when it's absolutely necessary, when somebody's sick, or when it's, you just go to bed when it gets dark. And to me, I had a wild, restless streak in me. And so when I would read about things or hear about things, I wanted to do it. I was a gypsy from the day I was born, I think. And so I knew there was things out there. I didn't know what all was out there. I didn't really realize. I knew there was a world beyond the world I knew. I knew that I'd never leave for good the world that I lived in. Had no reason to want to, other than to just go other places and come back. It's what, to me, home is a place to go to get ready to go somewhere else.
You're real careful about that too, still, aren't you?
Careful
about maintaining your roots, and you still have a farm. And
well, I don't know that I have been careful about trying to maintain my roots. It just seems that is just so very natural for me. I like the country. I appreciate it. As I talked earlier, I have a great love for land, and if I put my money in things, I like to put it in land. But I like the simplicity of the country. I like the peacefulness and the quiet part of the country. It's a great place to go to restore. I've been. It's just, I'm very close to my family. I could never break those ties. I never wanted to. So my greatest joys in life, even though I love this business, but some of my happiest moments are the moments that I spend in the country, back where I grew up, with the people I knew and loved, laughing about the stories they tell, laughing about things they tell on me when I was growing up, laughing about the things with my brothers and sisters in my family that we used to go through, some of the craziest, meanest things that you can imagine. But I live on a farm now because I just prefer it. I can't live in people's faces. I have to be me. I have to have a place to go to restore and to, like I say, to enjoy, but to have a place to go to get ready to go somewhere else. Because with my home and with that simple life and with my roots running as deep as they do, I feel I can go anywhere in the world and be a part of anything I want to be a part of. As long as I got my home base and my roots, then I can do as I please. At least I'm settled in my mind and in my heart and soul.
Great. So now you're 18, not at the moment, but you're 18 and you graduate high school. And went to Nashville.
Well, I did go to Nashville when I was 18 years old. I graduated on a Friday night. I had plans to go to Nashville for a long, long time, many years as a matter of fact. But I didn't want to leave home until I was of age. I didn't ever want my parents to worry about me. leaving home. I didn't want to feel like I went against their will. But I had always known, and they had always known, when I was 18, I was of age. And they knew for years that I was going to wait till I was 18 and then go. Even though I did make lots of trips to different places to take my music before that. But I wanted to go through school. I hated every day I went to school. I made myself go. I didn't have to go to school. I was the first one in my family to ever finish high school. Others did later. But I just wanted to go. My dad didn't think it was really necessary for a girl to go to school, because with that way of life in that part of the country, well, it wasn't really all that necessary if you were going to marry, have children, and go on like everybody else had done. But I didn't want that. I loved children, and but I didn't want any of my own, certainly not then. So I went to high school, and I had made plans with my uncle he was going to move down, the same uncle, Bill Owens. He moved to Nashville a couple of weeks and got set up because he was a musician. He landed a job with a country music band, playing guitar and traveling. And I lived with them for 6 months, kept their little boy. He was married at the time. I was a babysitter, but that was my free ticket to Nashville.
Did you go expecting to be a writer or a singer?
I went expecting to be everything. I expected to be a writer, a singer, a performer, and a star. I wanted to do it all. That's what I went for. I think I was a singer and I was a writer, and I knew that one would lead to another, but it didn't really make me no difference which one I got to be first, because I knew that the rest would follow. But I lived with them 6 months. He divorced. I moved out on my own. I had landed a couple of jobs, and so from then on, for 2 years, I lived alone, and by the skin of my teeth, I might add, scared and homesick. But I just wouldn't go back home because, I wanted to go visit, but I wouldn't even go back home to visit for the first time until I had accomplished some things. And when I went back home, I had accomplished some things. I had jobs on local radio and television shows. I had a contract as a writer. I was on salary, and I had a record contract. And I did that in a real quick time, but I just thought that's how it was supposed to be. So that just goes to show me, and should show a lot of people, that the attitude you work with has a great deal to do with what you accomplish. I just was so positive about it. When I would go in to talk to somebody, they just believed me. They were just sure that was the thing I was supposed to do, and that I guess that they were supposed to help me with it. It was like I was so sure of it. I was probably stupid, and, it was probably out of ignorance that I did it, or was it out of intelligence? I don't know. It's hard to say. I just thought that's the way it's supposed to be, and so that's how I went about it.
So you started recording those first records. Those were the Monument?
Yeah, these some Monument Records, and Fred Foster, a man that owned it then. He helped me a great deal. He's a man I love and respect and remember as somebody that I learned a great deal from. But they all helped me. See, I would always tell them, too, I just want to do this. Here's what I think I can do, and I hope I'm right about it. And if you can see it that way, I just, I would appreciate anything you can do. And so through that kind of an attitude, and through making good connections and being very lucky, and still in my own heart with my religious background, I always felt like the Lord was watching out for me, and my mama's and daddy's prayers were sort of being answered, that I was sort of looked over and looked after. And I didn't really get into any bad things. I didn't get a bad reputation, like most girls do. I just really went in a business way, and I'm real lucky, and I'm real grateful, too.
So what happened next?
So I recorded for Monument Records for 2 years. I was doing a lot of stage shows. I had put a band together, which consisted of family, brothers and uncles and cousins. And this was before I started with Porter Wagner's show. I was performing and doing shows. I had 2 chart records, one called Dumb Blonde, which was the first time that anybody knew me as an artist, and I had a song called Something Fishy going on, which was a song that I had written. And also, I had co-written a Song of the Year in '66, which was Put It Off Until Tomorrow on Decca Records with Bill Phillips. I was singing the harmony on that record, didn't have my name on it, but people started calling about who this singer was. And so I was beginning to really get known. And then Porter Wagner, who was a man that had a syndicated show, television and radio. He was one of the big names in country music and still is. He's one of the original Rhinestone Cowboys. And he did see me on local television and radio, and we got together. He thought I was perfect for the show, and I was glad he felt that way. And so we worked together for 7 years. We had a lot of success with duets, and we had some good times and some bad times. Anytime two people are stubborn and ambitious and all that, I really had never thought about being involved with a group. You know, I had always dreamed to have my own show, but it was one of the greater things that ever happened to me. Even the hard times we had, I learned a great deal from it. So I'll always, no matter what kind of problems we might have had then or what kind of problems have come up afterwards with with lawsuits and discussions, he still gave me my first big break, and I do credit him for that. And we worked well together, and we did a lot of things for each other.
Well, this show doesn't deal with problems recently. I wanted to know, was this about the time that you first started touring a lot? Did you get to see the world and get to, it was like it must have been on a totally different level than what you were used to.
Well, I had started traveling, as I said, with my own group, seeing the United States. And I never saw the world, even with the Porter Wagner show, except in the United States. We never went out of the States because Porter didn't fly, and I didn't particularly like to fly either. But I did. It was a big thrill for me to get to travel from state to state and see the country. And I just always remembered that I just was real lucky and that I was real happy, and that's what I had always dreamed I wanted to do, and I was happy doing it. And the hard times that I've had in the business, they never really mattered to me, because that's just something you have to have, because if you didn't know the pain of it, how would you know for sure that you had really enjoyed it? I mean, it wouldn't be like I had accomplished all the things I have if I couldn't reflect back on all the sides. I mean, if it had just been perfect all the way, even though it's been as near perfect, I believe, as it can be when you're struggling and trying to be successful. But I don't regret one little minute of anything that's ever happened. But it's still a big thrill to me to see the world. In fact, I'm going on tour now, as you know, and I've never even been in a lot of places we're going, as you know. But to me, I'm still like a little girl from the Smoky Mountains. I'm going to get to see another world. I did get to see this world, and it's like every place I go and every new thing that comes up, it's like all different worlds. It's like I can be a part of this, or I can be a part of this world, and to think that I could even be accepted in places where we didn't even know about when we were kids, except because of the war. It's like the things we knew about from overseas were like either fairy tale stories of kings and queens or wars that were going on in the world, and they were just words. We didn't really know what they meant. But now I'm just glad that I am one of the lucky people that could really be successful at what I love to do most and still be paid for it and get to travel around. I mean, how lucky can a person get?
Do you get to meet your audience when you're out on the road? You get to talk to them and they tell you things?
I really enjoy talking to people. I've never been an artist that was quick to run away or to be afraid of my audience. Because to me, to be afraid of the people that supposedly love me and that spend their money to see me, I can't always go person to person and talk to everybody in the audience, and I can't always sign every autograph that everybody wants. But it ain't because I wish I could. I mean, I really wish I could. And I used to spend hours after every show, I would take a chair and sit down on stage and sign until every person that wanted an autograph. It's a little harder now because you're talking about thousands of people now compared to hundreds then. But I love it when I get a chance to see fans. And I'm always reading through certain fan letters. I don't go through all of it, but I have people that read it, and if there's a special letter, they lay aside, if it's something real special. And if I get a letter about a certain thing, or would you make a happy birthday cassette for Colonel so-and-so who's retiring from the Navy, and this is a big thrill, you're his favorite, and if we could just play that, could you do this and that? Well, I just go all out to do it. I mean, I'll get people to help me sing it. I'll talk on it and stuff. But I love knowing what goes through the people's minds that love me. And I like knowing their stories, because I get a lot of ideas for songs because of that.
Well, so you do get ideas from people that way.
I do. I always have. And I think I always will. I can apply it any way that I feel I need to, but I can take somebody else's story and just imagine how I would react under the same conditions, and really make something special.
Do you learn things about yourself from what people tell you?
I think you always learn things about yourself from what other people tell you, especially if you're open to that sort of thing. If you can feel for other people in that way. If you can always remember that you are one of them. They are just like you. We all hurt, we all laugh, we all cry, we all have our financial problems, we all have our bad days, we have our funky days, we all strive to be more successful. We're all the same. And sometimes it's just good to be brought back down to a certain level that maybe you hadn't been experiencing or living on that level in a while. But you never, if a person's real to begin with, if a person takes the time to feel all those things, I think you always do. Some people want to run away from it and only want to feel what they want to feel, and they just refuse to deal with reality. But yeah, I learn a lot about myself and how other people look at me. I learn what they say. Well, why did you write this song? Or what made you write that? Or was you thinking this when you did that? And then I think, well, I don't remember now. Let me think about it. I'm sure there must have been a reason. And yeah, I think I learn as much from, I think I learn as much about myself from other people as I do from myself and just the things I personally experience.
The next group coming up?
The next group coming up, it's the New Beatles. Speaking about the way people look at you, let's talk about your image, because it's got so much publicity, but the way you handle it and the way you kid about it is so amusing. Is your image something that's developed over the years?
Yeah, my image is something that has developed over the years. At the beginning, maybe even in an innocent way, when it was a style to have the big hairdos, the teased hair and everything. When it was a fashion, I liked it. When it was not a fashion, I liked it still. So, and I kept doing it. And through the years, as it really was totally gone, except on my head and the head of a few people that didn't have any more sense than to change it, or that just liked it that well, like me. People got to saying, you got to change this or that. I think why I liked it was because I never felt ordinary. I always felt outrageous. I always felt gaudy. I didn't want to be plain in any way because I didn't feel that way. I'm very realistic, but still, everything I do is in a big way. I'm just an extremist. So if I was going to wear clothes, I wanted the brightest color I could find. If I was going to fix my hair, I wanted it to be as big and as noticeable as it could be. And the same with jewelry and the makeup and everything. I wanted my outside to look the way I felt inside, just really outgoing and just, just outrageous, I guess, extreme. So anyway, it got to where people saying, you just got to change your hairstyle, this is just way out of style, and you could be a right pretty girl if you do this and if you do that. And I thought, well, who cares whether I'm a right pretty girl or not? If I'm enjoying this, that's fine. So then I got the idea that I not only would not change that look, but that I would add to it. I would over-exaggerate it even more. And my body was over-exaggerated anyway, so I felt like one offset the other. I would have hair as big as the other parts of my body. So it just became a look, and the more I got into it, the more I liked it, the more I enjoyed it. And so the gaudier the clothes became, the gaudier the hair. And at that time, I was doing all this to my own hair. And, of course, I knew I couldn't continue that forever, not with my own hair. I mean, your hair can only stand so much, but
It'll
the
walk
spray
out.
and the lacquer, yeah, it will walk out on you. But, so I went into wigs, and so now I wear my own hair, for my own casual, personal reasons. And, I'll probably even get to where I'll wear my own hair more for casual things. But for me, show wigs I think are great, and I love that outrageous look. And I don't know that I'll ever tone my look down. I might class it up a bit, but I might even get more outrageous. I have no way of knowing.
Are you amused by the way people seem to concentrate on that, and it takes them like a long time to get to know the real Dolly Parton?
I guess, but then I guess I don't want them to just up and know me right away. I want to hold their attention long enough for them to know, but nobody ever really is going to know me totally anyway, because I don't even know myself. I never know exactly how I'm going to react to a certain situation. I act on impulse. I know there are basics. I can count on being faithful to people and being loyal and devoted, caring about the people I care about. I'm not like a whisper in the wind when it just comes to, caring. But I'm the kind of person, I wake up in the middle of the night and decide that I want to go to Atlanta, Georgia, because there's a pair of shoes down there I want. So if I'm wide awake and I was going to go anyway, I have a friend that wants to go with me, then I'll up and do that. But I'm just saying I am that unpredictable. But I like the fact that people have to have something else to hold their attention long enough to have to see underneath all of it to get to know me. Because I don't know if I feel like that I'm worth going to a little extra trouble to know, or if I just think, well, I got to do something to get their attention, and then once they do know me, then I think, I think that we'll both be happy. But I don't know. It's just a gimmick, and it's an image. I didn't want to look like other people. And I hit on it as a gimmick, when I decided that I would just be more extreme with it. Because I really didn't know anything about fashion. I didn't care anything about fashion. I didn't want to have to be worried about that. I didn't want to have to be responsible for knowing whether or not I was wearing the right thing to an evening thing, or if I was wearing my evening clothes in the daytime and it was at a... I just thought, well, since I don't know and I'm too busy working on my music to find out, since I'm not the kind of woman that cares whether or not I'm beautiful, I would prefer to be different and people know who I am when I'm coming. So I just used it, I guess, as a gimmick and as an excuse. It worked out well for both reasons.
Let me ask you one last thing, and that is there's a whole other Dolly Parton that we don't know about, that I guess is coming up, and that's Dolly Parton, the novelist, and Dolly Parton, the movie actress, and you're doing all that now.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about that too. I've always been excited about my writing. That even when I was young, I thought when I was older that I would probably start a whole new career and maybe become famous or maybe even rich as a writer, writing maybe Broadway plays, novels, poetry, and maybe, working up stage career. And stage acts. I have also a talent for writing children's stories, which I enjoy as much as anything I've ever done, because I guess I'm still a child at heart. I just still have that playful, childlike nature, which I'm glad. I think that keeps me as happy as anything, too. I can take business serious when it's serious, but I don't dwell in that. I can get down and roll in the mud with a bunch of kids if I want to still. But as far as the movies, I'm about to do that. It was never a lifetime dream of mine to be an actress or to be, a movie star or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if I'll do good, but I am curious to see if I will. And I'll sure be giving it my best try. And if I don't, I ain't worried about it, because, like I say, I got my music and my writing, and that's all I'm really concerned about. So if I'm a big movie star, that's good. That's just a plus and a surprise for me. And I don't know if I'll be good or not. I may be awful and I may be good. I have no way of knowing until it's time.
You sure are realistic for a dreamer.
Well, I'm a realistic dreamer. I do love to dream. I think dreams are... I think you got to have them. I think you got to believe in what you're doing, and I think you almost have to look at it almost like a child in order to keep your excitement up. There's nothing wrong with dreaming. I just believe in being realistic enough to know that they're not going to come true without some effort and some work. They got to have some wings, and you got to shove them off the ground. And so I guess I'm a good shover, and I guess I'm a good dreamer, and I just give my dreams wings.
somebody who's so serious about your career, you should look at it humorously. You're serious about it, but you don't take it seriously. So I was reading where you said where you were debating whether or not to go to a Dolly Parton.
Oh, yeah.
If you wondered if you'd win.
But you know, I am real happy. And I still have to say that all that goes back to my parents, my people. All that keeps you in line. My roots run deep, as we talked about. My religious background. I consider myself lucky. And I'm happy. I don't place undue strain on myself. See, I don't try to avoid my fans. I don't try to run away from the world. If I want to go do something, I go do it. What's the big deal? What's a few autographs? I mean, I am a person. I am a human being. And the fact that I have been successful as a singer and a writer, that was my childhood dream. That don't give me an excuse to act like a smart aleck or to set myself above somebody else. And I just won't allow anything to keep me from enjoying life. And I won't allow anything to keep me from looking at myself in a fun type way. I can see me as I am. I know me, better than anybody. And like I say, I'm unpredictable even to myself. But still, I just am real happy. And I don't mind failing because it just means I'll try harder when I start it up again. And I don't take it. I take it serious and I work at it serious, but I mostly let it just come natural. I just move when the spirit hits me. And that's, that's it. I just act according to how I feel like I should act. Therefore, I don't just bring a whole bunch of, stuff in on me. I don't lay awake at night and think I'm supposed to be worrying about something. I'm concerned about things, but I know that worrying ain't going to change it. I know that it's going to work itself out. I think about it, and I pray about it, and then I'll leave it. And it usually works itself out.
Great. Well, I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, I could talk to you too. But anyway, one of the way I've always thought it was strange how people spend their whole life trying to get successful, trying to accomplish what they thought to be their lifelong dream. Then they get to that point, they got all the money in the world, all the reasons in the world that a person should be happy. And then they become very miserable, distorted, locked in. They don't know if they're locking something in or something out. And I'm writing a book just about that whole thing, and it's called Is There Really Life After Success? To me, you should be the happiest after you've become successful. And most people are most miserable. And
those people who kill themselves at the top of their career.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I just don't understand it. I'm lucky.
You are. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I get to be on hospitable.